Merrill, I love this sweater. So
Why, thank you.
that's great.
This is
Uh,
it's funny. I was like, I'm gonna wear my comfy warm sweater this morning.
well, with the red underneath, we got great color combos going. It's looking
Yeah.
good.
And then Nate's got this brand new t-shirt.
You're popping off. Yes, we love.
Wow.
Could I get you both to introduce yourself?
My name is Merrill Garbus.
Hi, I'm Nate Brenner.
We are Tune Yards.
Great. Thank you. And we've been playing Hold Yourself, and thank you for making that song and
Oh
making
my God, thanks for playing it.
Sketchy. How did I always love doing interviews with like two people because how did you two meet and start collaborating?
How did we meet?
We met a long time ago, back in 2005. We were both counselors at a summer arts and music camp in New Jersey.
Wow.
So that was the first time we met, but we didn't start collaborating until about 2 years later. Just briefly, Merrill was in a band called Sister Suvi, and they had booked a tour and needed a bass player. And up to that point, they didn't have a bass player, and they were doing more smaller venues like cafes and stuff. But they got a pretty big opening gig opening for this band called Islands, and they were like, "We need a bass player." And the other member of the band also went to the summer camp with me and Merrill, so they were just like Nate, he's the only bass player we know, basically. And I was like, I'll do it. And I, flew to Montreal and rehearsed for a few days, and then we went on tour. And then ever since then, for me, I was kind of like, just Merrill's like kind of go-to bassist, luckily. But when she started Tune Yards, it was just a solo project. And then a similar thing happened where she got an opening gig for the Dirty Projectors. And it was sort of the same thing where she was like, these are big gigs, like big venues. Like, I need a bass player to like kind of fill out the sound.
Yeah,
practically. So she asked me again, and I was like, I'll do it. But for me, it was never, and that was probably like 2009 or something. So, it's been a while. But originally, I was just playing mostly into jazz and not really wanting to like join her band or anything. But it was kind of like, I'll do the tour, but then I want to go play jazz, basically. But then at the end of the tour, Dave Longstreth asked us to open for him and his band in the US. So that was like a European tour.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Merrill can do it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to, because like I have a lot of other stuff that I want to do. And he was like, no, if it's not the two of you, then it's not going to happen. So, and I was like, okay. And then at that point, we were kind of like, maybe I should just, play more and kind of, but it was kind of like it did feel, even though Dave sort of like forced the issue, it did feel really natural and good just in terms of like our different roles and, strengths and weaknesses musically, but also being on the road and just kind of like we just like drove ourselves around and just having two people to sell merch and everything.
Nate, how did you become a camp counselor?
Well, that's a good question. I just like, honestly, I had friends that worked there before me that were musicians, and they were just like, if you should come teach. I was teaching
$1,500 in a summer, man.
Yeah. But I was kind of in this strange place because it's kind of a long story, but I'll like summarize it pretty quickly. That
we got 20 minutes.
Okay. I basically like, it was, April in 2005, and I thought I was going to go back to college for my final senior year at Oberlin. I was a transfer student. And so like, basically all of a sudden the counselor called me and they were like, we figured it out. You can graduate this year. And so all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to graduate. And because they had turned some of my music credits at IU, like music history, into like college credits. They were like, we can just call it a history class. So basically, like, I thought I was going to go back to school for an entire year, and instead they were like, you're done like in a couple weeks. And so then I was like, what am I going to do?
Isn't that great? And you're like, head is spinning.
Exactly. And then I just like called this camp and I was like, do you need a teacher? And they were like, we do. And so I basically just like at that moment decided I was going to like teach at the camp so that I could have enough money to pay rent for like a month, you know, wherever I decided to move. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do after the summer, but I decided like halfway through the summer. So,
what was your impression of Merrill at the time?
I remember thinking she was amazing, and also like really, you know, just the nicest person, the funniest. And I gave her a bass lesson too. And I remember it was like, she was like, can you give me a bass lesson? I was like, sure. And then I was like, why am I giving you bass lessons? You're better than me. Like after one lesson. But I was teaching bass like all summer at the camp. And I remember like giving her one lesson. I was like, oh, like you don't need lessons. Like you're already like just a musical genius.
Now you're just blowing smoke up my butt.
Well, what was your Merrill? I see you as being like star of the camp.
You are wrong. You don't know anything.
You're right. So tell me how I am wrong.
I mean, no, Nate was, if anything, you were a star of the camp. Nate was like the master of all these jazz genius kids. And so he would just like, I was so depressed and I was a little older. I was 26. You were probably 22.
I was 22, but I remember Merrill being like, I'm old as and I won't say it because we're on the radio. But that was like one of the first
26.
things she said. I was like, how old are you? And she was like, I'm old as Shizer.
Right, at 26. I've always thought I was old. I was the head of the, I mean, I'm sure I was cooler than I felt inside, but like that was a tough time for me. And so basically I spent a lot of time eating pizza like out of the fridge in the canteen or whatever it's called, you know, like it was not a happy time. And I had a huge crush on Nate and he was otherwise interested. And it was like a big, I just remember calling one of my friends on the phone at the end of the summer and just like weeping and being like, this sucks. The man I love doesn't love me and I'm going to go home and live with my parents. You know, like it was just like.
When he gave you the bass lesson, did you also think that you were better than him after one lesson?
No, I was like, ooh, this is fun, but I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, you know, I have an ear, so I can imagine it's different teaching an adult with a, you know, who's grown up around music her whole life and who, you know, can pick things up rather fast that way. But thank you for the compliment.
Yeah. And that was still the only lesson you've ever had in your life. And she's like playing bass, like, you know, on tour in other bands and everything.
Okay.
I remember.
Blow that smoke.
Merrill, I remember seeing you at Summerfest here in Milwaukee in like 2008 or 2009 or something like that. And I was like, I remember seeing you on stage and you were making music. It was like, I've seen people play music, but I had never seen someone make music on stage. It blew my mind. And I was like, wow, I've never seen this. This is wild. And when you see something like that, I'm like, how did you even think to start making music like that? You know?
And I assume, I mean, because I don't remember what happened, but I assume I was using looping pedals.
Yeah.
That I was doing, kind of making it. Yeah. That's a cool way to put it.
Yeah. How did you do that?
We're going way back. I was around that same time before Tune Yards was Tune Yards, my mom had given me a ukulele years before.
Yeah.
And I started writing songs on it. And then I started playing open mics. And a friend of mine was like, you know, you're trying to do a lot with this instrument. like I would like drum on it.
Yeah.
And you know, like all these, I was trying to like make, you know, he could tell like you're trying to do like 8 instruments on ukulele and you're doing a great job, but here's a looping pedal. You know, he had a line 6 delay pedal that did just like very
Okay.
short loops, and he's just said, why don't you play with this? I think you know, have this kind of rhythmic a need for rhythm that this might you know, serve as. And so yeah, so that was history was made after that.
Okay, and now we're up to Sketchy, and I've always felt like your
kind of like you are in conversation with what's happening in the world, and so
like what was going on in the world around you as you were writing this?
Well, we live in Oakland, and this is, you know, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot going on in that it's a city with so many different pockets of community, and it's a city that is, how do I say this in a non-articulate way in the morning, that it's like this place, you know, the Black Panthers started here. There are, you know, Anti-Police Terror Project is doing work here, which I would say is probably some of the most revolutionary and innovative in terms of how we talk about public safety and policing. There's just a ton, and then, you know, never mind like university, you know, culture around tech, you know, innovation, tech innovation. There's a lot of money and then poverty all at once. So, I mean, I think, you know, I moved to Oakland right before we recorded Who Kill, right? Mm-hmm. It's just been really, the Tune Yards albums have been so extremely, are so indebted to Oakland as a place because there's so much here, as I'm sure there is in so many cities in this country, but Oakland, and I think because we're like at this kind of like, feels like the front lines of climate change here too. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot. This is like pick a day, pick a song topic.
Well, let's pick a song then. What about Hold Yourself?
Hold Yourself was, so we had this kind of, we went through this kind of burst of creativity, I think, in the spring of 2019. The whole record was written before the pandemic hit. So we had this spring of creativity, spring of 2019, and I would go in the mornings, I think, and you know, just set a timer. You're going to spend 30 minutes making a new song idea, and I would, you know, it was kind of like at least one a day, if not more, and that one had that freaking chord in the beginning, and I just, whatever was going on, I just started sobbing. Like it was just like this fucking cheesy 80s chord. And on the cheesy 80s DX7 keyboard. And it was just like, it was one of those things where like music hits you and you're like, yeah, like your brain, it's not like your brain likes it. It's like your whole body is just like, yeah, you know. But it was so gross. It was kind of like when we wrote Water Fountain, it was the same thing where I was like, this is so cheesy. It's so like I just like hated it. And then, but like, I should probably keep going. It was pretty catchy, you know. So like,
that's a good thing to have.
It was, yeah, I mean, right. I feel like if Sketchy is an album where we kind of like went in for the catchiness instead of complicating it as we often do as much. It's pretty complicated. But anyway, so that was how that started. And then it just felt like the lyrics were that song was so long in the making, but it just kept wanting to come out. And I knew that it felt like it was about this thing that was brewing inside of me, which was, where are we? Like being born in 1979 is like a very weird precipice to be born on. It's like we could have done something right then.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be here. And I wouldn't be sobbing with a friend about how, like, you know, her children wouldn't see thousands of species that we had grown up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that we wouldn't be here. So it took a while to put that in, distill that into words.
That's a great answer. Do you have another interview at right now?
I think we can go a little longer. I think the next one's at 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
We got places to go. Keep going.
Man, but I don't want to hold you up too long.
We're good. I mean, we could go probably to 40, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's go to 40 if you want to.
Yeah, I am in it. Merrill, what's your favorite song on the album? Right now, today, this moment.
Right. It changes. I think Homewrecker is disgusting, and also I'm really proud of it.
Why?
I feel like it's some of the strongest production we've ever done. I'm looking for a home. Since I don't come from anywhere, a house will make me strong. I don't know. It just feels really like what I am understanding whiteness to be. So it feels hard, but I feel really proud of it.
Good. Nate, what about you?
Right now, probably Hypnotized, the song.
And why is that?
I like how all the different sections kind of fit together harmonically. And it's like when you really, because now we've been playing them live more, and I'm like, oh, like this is like crazy. Like we're going in, like how many different keys, does this one song have? But like when we're writing the songs, it's a lot of, you're kind of just like throwing out ideas, and then actually like going back to a finished song, you're like, whoa, we did that. Like we went through like these, all these like different like key centers, but it doesn't sound like we're forcing it in a way. Like it sounds like really natural. So just something about that song, kind of the mood, but I like all the songs.
Yeah. Merrill, setting the 30-minute timer is a move. That is do you that's a choice to make, and I like that, because I feel like that's how my brain works too, is like you've got to carve away. You've got to do the work. If you just like wait for the work to come to you, it's easy to be like, well, it's never coming.
No, it's never coming. It's never coming. Totally. It's never coming. I mean, I feel like it's, not to like hold our craft up as, God's miracles or whatever, but like you are creating something out of nothing. So like if there's going to be something there, we spend a lot of time tricking ourselves basically into creating frameworks or puzzles to solve so that something comes out of it. So I think that the timer is a frame. We started rolling 12-sided dice to provide us a structure. Did any songs come out of it, of the dice? Like you roll dice and you're like, okay, so it's going to be like 12 measures of 9, 8.
Wow.
Which is the dice we got from Chris Wiseman, who's my sister's partner and an incredible songwriter himself. But he was using it for scales, right?
Yeah, like using it to sing different intervals. So like whatever, he has this like complicated system, but it's like whatever he rolls, he'll have to like sing that interval.
That's wild.
Yeah. But it's just these tools. It's like, how do you trick yourself into creating something out of nothing? Any way.
Yeah.
Besides like drugs and alcohol, you know what I mean? Like that's all. Yeah. It's just like, no, that's not sustainable, and we don't do that shit. Like that can't be what we lean on for quote inspiration.
I love that and respect it. I do want to ask you both about a song. I would love to come out of this by playing a song of somebody else's.
Mhm.
So Nate, what is like a song that you've been listening to a lot recently?
Let me think about it. That's a good question.
I feel like we always were like, "What do you listen to right now?" And I'm always like,
I have the same thing. I ask
Yeah.
this question. I ask this question all the time. I'm like, oh my God, what would I say?
Yeah.
I've been listening to this like Dust to Digital put out this album that it's called like Archival Shellac or something like that. And it's like world music that is basically like at the beginning of recorded music. I always think of just like the United States, and it was like, no, that actually happened throughout the world. And we
the rest of the world.
yeah. And so it's like 100 tracks long. That's like recordings from like the 20s and 30s from like
Wow.
Zanzibar and and India and like all these different places.
Mhm. Wow.
But
thank you for giving us time to get our answers together by saying your answer.
I have an answer, but we've been listening to the Meridian Brothers vinyl.
Mhm.
But I should pull it up or grab it because like I don't know the names of the song. I just like throw on the record.
Yeah.
Like.
But do you know that Meridian Brothers album?
no.
It's so good. It's like it's like it's like cumbias on acid. It's
Wow.
acid
So
cumbia.
who are they? What's the deal?
They're from Colombia. They're like, you gotta check it out. I mean, I don't know your musical taste, but if you're listening to weird 20s recordings from Zanzibar, you might want to pick this up.
Good point. Good point.
But I mean, we've been listening to I've been listening to some South African club music. I've been super into this band Batida. Actually, they're not. Hang on, he's pulling it up. Meridian Brothers.
My buddy listened to Meridian Brothers. I think he sent me one of their tracks like years ago and was like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm
Cumbia
super into this.
Siglo 21. 2021. I mean, sorry, that's 21, right? Oh my God, this is morning. I'm out of it.
No.
There's a Batuk. That's the name of the band. It's this BATUK. But there's it's like really amazing music from South Africa. I think that's Bok Matambo is the producer for it. Actually, I could be wrong, but anyway, it's there's one song called Renya Makeda.
Okay.
So I'll pick that as my song.
What does the music do for you?
That Batuk music?
Yeah.
Like so much music out of South Africa, it feels like it moves energy through really intense reality. So that music in particular is very, beat heavy dance music, and I think that whole album is specifically about basically African queens. So it's like this really beautifully deep and intense subject matter, but you're just like, your body's moving through it with it. And I think that's what, especially these days, I feel like my body just needs to move a lot and move a lot of stuff through it.
That's rad. I can't wait to listen to that. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for this interview. Thank you for Sketchy.
Thank you. Thanks for playing it. We really we can't do it without you playing it. So thank you.
Thanks.